Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of Freedom Friday here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network. Into two very special things for this Freedom Friday. Obviously, it being our 100th Freedom Friday, as well as tomorrow being the official fourth anniversary of the Ohio Patriot Education Network as a 2A rights organization here in the state of Ohio. Obviously, tomorrow also marks the fourth anniversary of constitutional carry, which, conveniently is why I picked that day to create Open in the first place. And we're going to get into all that and go through my whole journey as a 2A rights guy and doing what I need to do, basically. Then we'll go into a few other topics of the day after that's what it is. Obviously, got one of my new t-shirts here. Got on the professional crop duster t-shirt that I got from Amazon the other day. You may not see me, but you'll know I was there. I saw this about maybe a month ago now, maybe not even quite that long. And usually with most Amazon shirts, it's like, 2X, 3X, maybe 4X max. But they actually had this in the 6X, and I was like, fuck yeah, let's get that. There's a couple other shirts I found on there too that were also the same size, and I think they were either like 15 or 20 bucks a piece is what it is, which is not bad, honestly. Doesn't matter if it's made in China or Vietnam, whatever it is there. Like, that's not a bad price for a shirt, honestly. Now, granted, it'd be nicer if they were like 10 bucks or even $5 for that matter, but what it is. I also noticed too, here recently, especially on this side of the beard right now, I am really, really starting to white out my beard right now. Like, that's not even gray, dude. That's just white hairs coming through, is what it is. I'm not sure if that is like white stress hair or what that is, but yeah, it's no bueno. So anyway, but yeah, before we get into the official journey that got us here, I do want to talk about something very interesting today, and I would like to talk about the good people at my local LGS, is what it is, their local gun shop, because they really helped a brother out today, man. So ended up going over there to, obviously, I was trying to get those one-horse lowers again that they had on sale, is what it is. Unfortunately, from my understanding is, I guess they get their shipments on Wednesdays, and quite literally, it's either by Wednesday night or it's Thursday morning sometime. They are sold out of these things. I don't know how many they're getting in, if it's 5, if it's 10, if it's 20, if it's 30, if it's 100. I don't think it's quite that many, honestly, but yeah, I'm not sure if they're getting in like a dozen or so and they're just selling out immediately is what it is, or what's going on there. But it seems to me like if they're able to get, more in is what it is, then if they're selling that stock that quickly is what it is, then it's like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, buy like 50 of them at a time or something, if that be the case, then if you can, or even just limit how many people can buy it, a single person in a single transaction, whatever it is, then if there's gonna be more people that want them is what it is or whatever. So maybe like 2 per person or something is what it is, or something like that, But yeah, unfortunately, I went up there and they were obviously out of stock, is what it is. And I was like, oh man, like I know you. And the guy's like, oh yeah, if you just want to call us on Wednesday and see if we have any, whatever the case be, like that's the best we can do for you, basically, is what he told me. And I was thinking to myself, like, y'all can't just put me on like a list to like a waiting list or whatever the case be, is like a hold to for me for like, next Friday or whenever the fuck I'm going there is what it is then. But apparently that's not a thing, I guess, but it's whatever. So hopefully I'm going to get those pretty soon is what it is there. I ended up deciding to finally pull the trigger, literally, on something I've been looking to get for a few years now is what it is, which is the Taurus 942 22 LR 8-shot revolver. So yeah, I ended up going to one of those today. So the lowers is what it was, since they have those in stock, obviously. And I was almost denied. Like, I'm pretty sure I was almost denied, because what happened was for some stupid ass reason, the Ohio DMV, I guess technically would be a Bureau of Motor Vehicles, I think is what we're called here. So it's like the BMV. When I got my ID changed to this place is what it is, instead of doing my apartment address after the street is what it is, they just did like whatever the actual, because I think when you look at the street, actually there is like it's like a southeast or whatever on there is what it is. And I had completely, like, mind you, I had literally just bought a pistol last week. About that BRG-9 Elite is what it was then. And everything went through good on that one. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, because I was doing the thing and putting on information in, that's what it is. And I think last week I had double checked my ID just to like confirm, and I think I just blanked on doing that today is what it was, because I think my mind was kind of just still, a little bit irritated that I wasn't able to get what I needed to get, which was obviously those lowers that I got for literally uppers that are coming in the coming days as it is right now. But yeah, I ended up doing some stuff there is what it was. And then sure enough, I wasn't even really thinking about it. I was just like, oh yeah, okay, it's this address and then this apartment number, whatever the case be. And thinking to myself in the back of my head, I'm like, wait a minute, did I just fill that out right or no? And I didn't really think too much of it what it was. I just, kept going basically what it is. And yeah, sure enough, dude was like, all right, it'll be about 15 minutes or so for me to, do the background check for you, and I'll be back with the thing is what it is then. And I was like, all right, cool. And so they have a bench at this place now that's by their one ammo aisle that I will sit down on usually when I'm there, because my back is really messed up anymore. And it's just, I don't know if it's just my debilitating discs in my back or what is going on with it, but it's just not good. And I can't really, I noticed recently it's really hard for me to stand more than like 10 minutes at a time without having to like lean forward to like really pain on my back is what it is there. Which I'm sure is not helping my posture at all, is what it is then. But anyway, so I was sitting there at the on the bench there, and I look over, and the dude that had done my 4473 on the actual tablet there, which you would think if there's something wrong with it, like being the fact that it's digital now, you could just have the person simply go back in there and just be like, okay, I messed up here, or whatever the case be. Just let me, exit that out, or whatever the case be, and just put this everything in there as it'll be, or whatever. But yeah, he walks out, and then this woman walks out with him, and I'm like, who is this chick? Like, I've never seen her before. And I was like, huh, that's strange. Like, why does she have my paperwork in her hand? And then of course they walk up, and she's like, you're Adam, right? And I'm like, yep. And she's like, well, here's the deal. And then she informed me that I had messed up because instead of putting how they had written my address on my license at the BMV, because I had put my apartment number instead, but not even thinking about it or whatever, she was like, well, here's the deal. And I was like, oh, don't even tell me. You're just going to deny me, right? I'm just going to buy today or whatever. And she's like, oh, no, you're fine. You did it the right way. It was the state that fucked up on your ID is what it is. And she's like, we just need a second form of ID that can confirm your address is what it is. And I'm like, really? That's okay. And I'm like, what do you need then? And she's like, well, do you have a car registration? I'm like, ma'am, I do not drive. Like, my cousin literally brought me up here today. And she's like, well, do you have an Ohio range permit? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And she's like, oh, we can help you with that. So basically, I went up to the front to where their checkouts are, had to pay $5 for a 1-day range permit. I'm still not even sure what the fuck this is here in the state of Ohio. Like, I don't know if it's me being able to go into a range and just shoot at a range for a day and have that $5 bill or whatever it is there. But yeah, she had the dude that was doing the 4473 with me take me up there, get that done. And then it was basically had to give him my social and everything. That's what it is. And from there, it was basically got the range permit. They took that to the back, and apparently that overrode, because she was explaining to me that apparently because of the way with me doing it and stuff like that, if they had put it in to the ATF database as a background check, it would have messed up all their records and basically gotten them like a Fed call out, basically, is what it is there at the shop. And I'm like, yeah, we don't want that, obviously. And so, yeah, it was basically just like a mistake that unfortunately cost me an extra $5 it really shouldn't have, which, again, I don't really understand. Like, I could see if it was like me filling out a piece of paper like the old 4473s were, but the fact that you have a literal tablet you're handing me that can be edited, like, it seems retarded to me that you don't just like be like, oh, we just need you to like put this in the correct way is what it is. So as it's written on your ID or whatever currently. Because like I was telling her, I was like, ma'am, I literally was here 7 days ago buying another gun from you people. So, and yeah, like it just became a whole thing, but it was whatever. So it worked out in the long run. They did sell to me as what it was then, but it was an interesting experience to say the least. It was something I'd never had before, obviously, and hopefully it will never be a thing in the future of what it is then. So, but yeah, just a crazy experience in general is what it is there. So, but yeah, I finally have a 942. So I can finally do what I wanted to do for about 3 years or so now since that gun first came out there, which is officially create the 3-gun rimfire competition, where it is rifle, semi-auto pistol, revolver, specifically snub-nose revolver. And I think, honestly, if we started doing these things, it would be pretty cool, honestly. I'd like to get, if we can ever get the guys together that do the chats with me and stuff, Honda, Leo, maybe Shot Red, Corey for sure. I know Matt's close to me now, so we'd bring NAA in there as well. If Duke ever comes back out of the shadows, we'd pull him into the mix as well on that one. You'd have, I'm trying to think who's all around me right now. I know that Angry is in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if he'd want to come out or not. I know that, or at least I'm pretty sure that, oh God, what is that dude's name now? Fuck me. No, blanking. Roll call. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm pretty sure he's still in Indiana there. So, yeah, if we could just get about, I don't know, 10, 15 guys out there, whatever the case be, that'd be kind of cool to do like a competition between all of us then, where it's, I just bring out the 1522, the TX22, and then this 942, and we each take turns, doing like, I don't know, like an 8-shot scorecard, whatever it is for each gun, because obviously the revolver can only hold 8 rounds is what it is, so everything else would be just 8 rounds is what it is, instead of having the TX22 with a full 16 round or even a 21 round mag in it. And obviously the 1522 can be a 25 round. Well, depending, actually I have 35 rounds here in a couple different mags that were aftermarket ones. I don't know if they even sell those anymore or not. But there was also, I know, another one that somebody else, it was some other third-party company made before Smith & Wesson sued them because they basically made a better version of their own magazine where it was like a 32-round magazine. They had the little tabs on it and stuff like that. Instead of just being like, hey, here's the deal. We're just going to take 50% of the profits on this one then, which is what they should have done. They should have been like, cool, keep making these. We'll take half your profits going forward. So, but anyway, it does piss me off when gun companies pull shit like that with magazine stuff, because it's like, dude, why are you taking a company out that's making a better version of your product instead of bringing them into the fold to be like your go-to people to make this thing is what it is then, make a better version of your own magazine or whatever it is then. So again, it is what it is, but it's unfortunate here and there because it does happen more than you would think it does. But yeah, I'm pretty psyched about getting this revolver though. I will say, having tested the trigger on it a couple times, obviously not going to dry fire that just because I don't want to fuck up the hammer and stuff like that with it just shooting into air is what it is there, and potentially having like breakage or whatever the case be down the line. But yeah, we'll say like just trying to pull it back, like especially comparing it to my everyday carry, which is a G3C right now. G3C, you put your hand on that trigger, or you put your finger on that trigger, and it literally has a bunch of like empty space there for take up is what it is, and is like I think it's like somewhere between like 4 and 6 pounds depending on if it's double striked or not. But I'll tell you what, this 942 in double action, holy shit, was this thing fucking hard to pull back. Like, especially with my arthritic fingers, dude, like, damn, like, I was like pulling it with some force, and it was like barely moving that hammer back, and I was like, Jesus, dude, like, this is ridiculous. And then, of course, I, pulled the hammer back completely into single action. And I will say, like, touching it off in a single action, then having, thumb on the hammer to make sure it doesn't fall and fuck up or whatever the case be. That was a really crisp trigger pull is what it is there. If we could actually just stay in single action, that'd be cool. But anyway, yeah, we'll definitely do some stuff there is what it is, and play around with that in the future is what it'll be. So hopefully have some fun with some boys in the future then as well, from the chats and what have you. But yeah, like I said, it was an interesting experience for sure. And one of the things I overheard when I was there, actually, it was 2 of the employees were talking about SIGs specifically, and the one dude was explaining to, I think it was the older guy that works there, about what people were doing to, I think it was the 365, if I'm not mistaken, to like make it malfunction or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, here's this thing right here. They're like sticking stuff in, and he like stopped himself like partway through because he looked over in my direction like, should this customer be hearing what I'm saying, kind of thing. And I'm just like looking at him like, kind of like, bro, I'm literally the head of a tour organization in the state, right? Like, I'm as pro 2A as they come, baby. So obviously didn't say that to him, which I should have probably, especially given my professional prop duster shirt at the time. So, but yeah, it was just good times either way. But yeah, it was an interesting experience, like I said, and kind of weird for sure. But yeah, I thought it was very interesting that they gave me basically an option of like, hey, do you have a second form of ID, or we can make you a second form of ID, basically, if we needed to. Versus, oh, we're just going to deny you outright is what it is. So, but yeah, it is what it is. But knowing for the future, obviously, like just, always double check the ID is what it is there, make sure to write it as it's listed is what it is then, and it will be fine. Usually is what it is there. So I actually thought for a minute that they were going to, like, I thought when she was coming out with the paperwork, I actually thought it was going to be something where they were like, oh, it turns out the feds have put like some like retarded like no fly no buy list on you or something like that, and I would have been like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that would have been fucked up too, by the way, because it's like, how are they doing that in 7 days? Like, what the fuck's going on here, man? So like I was seriously like freaking out for a minute there. I was like, oh shit, this ain't good. And then yeah, when she said that to me, I was like, oh, okay. And then she was giving me like ways to remedy it like very easily. So but yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and actually, while we're here, we'll look up what the Ohio range permit actually is here, because I actually want to know what the fuck it is myself, since I apparently have one now, just to see exactly what it's labeled as here. Okay, so looking up Ohio range permit. Let's see, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, public shooting ranges and buy permits. Annual shooting range permits are valid for 365 days from the day of purchase. Shooting range permit and hunting license combinations are valid. Okay, do we need hunting range permit in Ohio? All persons 18 or older shooting on DNR Class A, B, and C ranges must purchase a shooting permit, range permit, which is available at all hunting and fishing license outlets. Okay, so this is basically what they sold me is what it is then. So what is what actually is the deal with this? Let me figure this whole thing out what it is then. Because I swear they said it was a 1-day permit, and I'm just like, which made it even weirder then. So, yeah, let's see what this is here. Okay, so we got all person shooting in Ohio DNR. Division of Wildlife ABC ranges must be purchasing a shooting range permit, which is available to all hunting licenses. Legal targets on all ranges are single sheet paper targets or stationary, reactive, or self-healing polymer targets only. Shooters must supply their own target holders, which must meet the approval of the shooting range attendant. Delaware, Grand River, and Spring Valley supply target holders. Let's see, target shooting of fully automatic weapons and rapid fire of semi-automatic firearms are strictly prohibited. All Class A ranges have handicap accessible parking, shooting benches, and resting facilities. Okay, here we go. Shooting range permit options. DNF provides public ranges for sportsmen and women can safely safe places to practice with their hunting implements, safe shooting environments, and knowledge of range attendants foster an attitude of firearm safety and respect, where shooters can develop the knowledge of skills necessary to practice safe firearms use and take the next step to attend a hunter education class and become a hunter. Okay, if using a mobile device. Okay, so that goes on the thing. Huh. So this does not explain, like, I swear to God, they told me it was a 1-day per, like, I don't, yeah, it's just weird. So, 1-day range permit. Let me look up further. Okay, Ohio 1-day shooting range permit costs $5 and grants admission for 1 day. Okay, here we go. For 1 day to any Ohio DNR Division of Wildlife A, B, or C shooting range. These ranges include rifle, pistol, and shotgun facilities. Okay, so basically that means I can go to any Ohio DNR shooting range now for a day and go shooting. That's cool. That's really nice, actually. So I have to do that at some point in the future. Then if that'd be the case, yeah, cool with me, bro. Especially considering there's a lot of ranges around here that literally charge you. I think it's like $20 just to get in the place or something like that. So yeah, $5 to go to like an outdoor range would be cool. So cool. So this is what I think is kind of silly about that, though, right? So you would think of all the places you could buy these things, like, I don't know, the range would actually be the place you'd want to buy it at. Oh, no. Because apparently, according to this, permits are not sold at shooting ranges. You must buy them in advance via the Ohio Wildlife License System, not on the Hunt Fish Ohio mobile app on the Hunt Fish Ohio mobile app or at an authorized hunting and fishing license retailer. Crazy. Yeah, let's see. Permits are valid for a single calendar day. If you plan to shoot frequently, an annual permit is available for 20. Okay, that's actually not a bad price either, for that matter, dude. $24 for like a year's range. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good deal too, for that matter. So, see, I could actually see this being a thing if you were gonna have like buddies from out of state or whatever it is there come in and like visit you or whatever the case be, and you guys are like, hey, y'all want to go to the range? And it's like, yeah, let's go to the gun shop first or whatever and just get these, $5 permits for everybody is what it is or whatever then. So very interesting. Very, very interesting for sure, man. So to answer that question, I really, really wanted the stainless steel, right? They did not have the 2-inch in stainless steel for the 22 LR model. They only had it for the 22 mag model. And I'm like, and I was like, guys like, well, we have it in 3-inch. And I'm like, yeah, but I really want that snub nose is what it is. So I settled for the black 2-inch model. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have gone for the 3 inches, what it is. But it is what it is, man. At least I have a revolver. At least I can say I own a revolver now. So that's nice. It doesn't matter if it's a 22 or if it's a fucking 357 or 38 special, if that'd be the case. Which actually, looking at it today, I maybe should have just bought a 38 special because it would have been like, I think comparing to this price of this one, I think that price was like at least like $40 cheaper or something like that. So, but yeah, I wanted the 942 is what it is though. I've wanted that gun literally since it came out is what it is. And now I have it. Of course, it's, unfortunately looking at the grips on it though, it is a weird gripping system, and it does, as somebody with a big old hand like mine, who is so used to holding semi-autos in their hand all the time, it's just like having to change that grip pattern on your hand now, so that you don't have your fingers in front of the muzzle or in front of the cylinder, to where there would be, a concussive force of stuff exploding there is what it is, and you potentially losing a piece of a finger. I'm definitely going to get used to that as what it is there, which I think I do have when I was holding it, it seemed like I was able to hold it pretty decently. It seems like, honestly, the way that handle is on that, it's almost like it needs to be like just like a little bit bigger. Like instead of it being like this big, it needs to be like just that much bigger, like an inch or two longer, basically, to get like that full grip experience of what it is there. But yeah, I'll definitely, knowing that I do have an ability to go to a range now is what it is. Any given time period in the next 365 days is what it is now. I'm definitely going to try to do that as what it is at some point down the line. I'm going to actually see if I can find an Ohio DNR range around here, see exactly where it's at, and then just go there here one of these weekends and nothing else, and maybe just take a few guns with me if that be the case. Just test it. That'd be the case. I can just test a few things out as what it is then. So, which I assume that I assume all I need really is just having that receipt that has a $5 payment on it there and says 1 day license or whatever, to show to them of like, okay, cool, you're good for this day or whatever then. So I'll have to keep that in mind and keep that in my wallet as what it is then for future uses would be then. So, but yeah, it's pretty interesting for sure. But yeah, I'm pretty psyched about that actually, because yeah, that would mean I could go fire off a bunch of stuff as what it is then. Go take a bunch of guns and just go test a bunch of stuff as what it is then. Because I would definitely do that, honestly, because right now I'm trying to think now. Did I put a mag through the G3C when I got it? Because I was still living at my mom's place at that time before it got sold off. I think I put a couple of mags through that gun is what it is. So it's probably not anywhere near what it needs to be, ammo wise. And plus, I'd also want to test hollow points through that as well, just to see if it'll feed them regularly is what it is then. So maybe do like a mag that has like, I don't know, like 8 or 10 hollow points in it or whatever then, and then go from there. And yeah, do some other stuff, and then obviously take the G3C Toro out and test that a little bit here and there. See how that red dot lines up. See if I can get a good hit on some targets and stuff like that's what it'll be then. And then go from there, basically. Of course, obviously, what it's showing me there is I would have to go buy some targets and take my own stuff out there as well to shoot at what it is then, which is fine. Again, doesn't really bother me. It's just a matter of, hey, like, let's see how this functions or whatever the case be, or how that functions and stuff. because I know like the human-sized paper targets they're not super cheap. They're also not like ridiculously expensive, from my understanding. And I think you do get like it's either 15 or 20 in a pack usually. So, but yeah, it'd be nice to be able to fire off some guns and stuff like that. That's what it is there, and you know, go do what you need to do to test fire some things. And obviously, what's nice there is they would have like benches and stuff you could sit at. I could do like different. I don't. Well, actually, not think about it because usually ranges don't allow you to go like from the holster and fire, which would be nice if they did, because then you could actually do um something real life, like reenactment essentially is what it is there, where it's like, oh, you got to do this, that, or the other thing or whatever, and God forbid you are in a life and death kind of stand your ground situation, or whatever the case being. It's like, yeah, you want to know if you're going to be able to pull your weapon and get shots on target quick enough that could save your life, kind of thing, whatever there. Now, granted, I could see why they wouldn't want you to do that stuff from the holster, just because it would be, liability issue, and obviously stupid people are stupid, and you're going to have some stupid motherfucker pull the gun and then immediately have their finger in the trigger guard and then probably pull the trigger and shoot themselves in the fucking leg or hip or something else for that matters what it is. So, yeah, unfortunately, again, we live in a society where dumbasses exist and low IQ, stupid motherfuckers are allowed to vote. And then you wonder why our society's become such a fucking shit show, is what it is then. So, but yeah, needless to say, it is what it is, man. And like I said, I think it'll be interesting for sure. So I'll look into that more, obviously, and then see if my cousin doesn't want to also go get one of these 1 day permits or something like that. And then the two of us just go to the range together, is what it is then for that day. And just take some stuff with us, and then set up whatever we need to set up, is what it is there. And do some things there, is what it would be then. So it is what it is. So anyway, but yeah, should be fun times ahead for sure then. But if nothing else, again, even if I don't use this in the next year, which is highly unlikely at this point, it was a $5 bill, literally. So anyway, but yeah, so that is interesting to note on that one. It would be interesting to see too if I went and bought the $24 year permit, or whatever the case be there, if they would actually give me like a card or something or not, or if it would be like a digital download on the phone or whatever it is there. Because they, as far as I'm aware, they didn't give me nothing except obviously the paper that was the receipt that had my purchase, and that's what it is there. Which is, again, what I assume I would actually show someone at a range whenever I go to it. That's what it is. And they'd be like, all right, you're cool to be here. So, but anyway, so yeah, that's pretty interesting in general. But moving on to the meat and potatoes of today's episode, which is basically the 4th anniversary of the network, is literally tomorrow. So basically, for those that don't know, back in the day when I was a kid, obviously I was, raised by a single mother. Dad died when I was about 2.5, give or take, back in 1987 there, or before 1988 is what it was. And mom was always very, conscious about, or feel like very like, I guess, rattling of the nerves, I guess is what I'd say at that point, of like, oh, you can't, like, because she didn't really want us having BB guns growing up, but she, relented on that a couple times over this year, and really now we're able to get, 1 or 2 things here is what it is or whatever. And, she was always just like, be safe, kids, and, just be, remembering safety is what it is there, and don't, shoot each other with these things is what it is. But yeah, she was never about, like, basically real guns in the house when I was of age, or my brother was of age at the time, whatever. And that was kind of a thing in her I'm trying to think now, because I would have been, I think she was like when I was born, I want to say she was around 37 maybe, or so, give or take. So she would have been in her mid 50s when I was a legal adult. And it was probably around the time I was like 24, 25. Like, that's when she pretty much had relented to, like, hey, if you ever want to get a gun, like, just be safe, basically. Um, of course, I never had the money to get one back then because I was always pretty poor and, never had a real steady job, so what it is. And then, of course, disability happened over time. There's what it is. And, yeah, it just became a whole thing is what it is there. So it was, very little money to go do anything kind of thing. And any money that I did have usually went to me playing MTG or something like that is what it was. So, anyways. But yeah, it was always one of these things where I was like, do I really need a gun? Like, oh no, America's still kind of safe. We're still kind of safe. You got piece of shit politicians out here who are trying to fuck with our rights all the time. But, for the most part, it's like, oh, do I really need to own a gun? Like, yeah, I probably should get something eventually, and I will get something eventually, but it's going to be, whenever kind of thing is what it is. That was kind of my mindset at that point in history. Flash forward to 2018, the midterms. You had literal casting couch cunts like AOC on the ballot, who her entire fucking campaign for Congress was funded by Chonk Uger and the Justice Democrats. And you had this stupid bitch going around being all like, oh, there's going to be this blue wave. And when we get into power, it's going to be no Second Amendment ever again bullshit or whatever the case, or whatever fucking nonsense she was speaking at the time. I'm like, well, fuck all that. I'm definitely getting armed. That was what it is. And by that point, I'd, kind of left the scene for Magic the Gathering. And I was like, all right, what do I have that I could just essentially sell off to my store at the time that it was there and make a little money there? And I'm like, all right, let's bring this stuff to him. Let's bring this stuff to him. Let's bring that stuff to him. And yeah, he put together piles of things and give me a decent price for what it is then. And that's how I was able to purchase my first gun, is what it was in this country, which originally was going to be a Taurus G2C, which I had gone to a local gun shop in the town next to the one I lived in at the time, and ended up talking to this dude and was like looking at his little, because the problem with this shop in general is when I realized it was a gun shop, and I use that term very fucking loosely, by the way, inside of an automotive place where it was quite literally like a room within a building, I'm just like, yeah, maybe don't do this if that be the case here. Just because of the fact that it was, very limited inventory is what it was. Mostly this dude just had, I think he had like 3 cases, what it was, of guns, and then there was like a 4th little case in that like little kind of triangular circle kind of, or not circular, but it was a like squared kind of deal is what it is there, or maybe rectangle, I guess is maybe a better terminology to use for that one. But it was a very weird place in general. But yeah, it was basically like Glocks, SIGs, and then like all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, do you have any Tauruses or anything like that? And he's like, no, I have to order that stuff. And I'm like, well, go ahead and order it. And then that was and I told the story before. I was like, the dude, you can tell he didn't even really want to sell guns, even though he was in FFL at the time. And no, he still is, honestly, or somebody at that place still is, because I know that place still exists as a gun shop in that area. But yeah, he was taking personal calls and shit while he was trying to make a sale with me. And my mom and I almost left actually that day, because I was like, oh, okay, cool, order that for me. And then he never did like say anything to me. And then we were about to like walk out, and he's like, oh man, you need to put down like a deposit on this thing so you can actually have me, buy it for you, what it is then online. And I was like, oh, okay. And so yeah, he just basically purchased offline. That was what it was. And then he told me it was going to be, X amount of time, whatever, for it to come in, and then just he'd contact me or whatever then when it finally came in there. The craziest part about that shop was because of the way they had the thing set up, you basically had like a glass storefront that had like a car or something in it, is what it was, like an old classic car. And then you had two side entrances. Like one was like your main entrance, like right by the gun shop door. And then the other one was like the opposite way towards like the automotive building that exists there, is what it was. Right by the door that would have been, you open that door up and then you walk in and it's like maybe like 5 feet. And then there's like another door that's like directly to the gun shop that at the time was closed. You had to actually ring a bell to get somebody to come out there, is what it was. So that should be my first indication of never did business with this person in the first place. Of course, that was, again, me being naive. We just want to support local mom and pop places, what it is there, because I heard good things about this place before that from other people. But yeah, it turns out those guys were, I don't know if they were talking about a different person or what the fuck they were talking about, but it was definitely not this guy, what it is. But anyway, you had everything finally go down there, is what it is. And it was interesting because when my mom and I walked into the place, I'll tell you what, these people must have thought they were living in fucking Mayberry, bro, because when we went in there, I walked in the door of that place for the first time, like the outside door into the actual like main floor, like showroom, I guess it would be, honestly, of that building. And I looked over and there was basically an open little like gate. It wasn't a gate thing, but it was like an open like thing that you could step into. And there was just a shit ton of shotgun boxes there. And I'm like, are these full? Like, do these have shotguns in them? And I went and like, my mom was like, I don't know, go touch one. And I was like, okay. And I walked over there and I literally like, did like that or whatever the case. I'm like, oh yeah, that has a gun in it. So yeah, this place, and mind you, there was nobody around in the main area there. If we had wanted to, we probably could have each taken a shotgun in each arm, dude, and just walk right back out. So we could have basically taken 4 shotguns with nobody having any protection these damn things. And I'm just like, this is fucking stupid, bro. Like, how do you not have this inventory like in the back of the shop someplace under lock and key? Like, that's just ridiculous. But yeah, it was just fucking craziness what it is. But it was interesting then because I don't know if there was like a camera system out there or something that was like watching us or something, because I noticed the next time I had gone back to actually buy the gun when it had come in, it seemed like that was now like locked off with like some chains and stuff. And they had basically like put up like some kind of barricade there so you couldn't get like into that area anymore, is what it is. And I'm just like, okay, well, good for you people. At least you're like upping your security a little bit. But again, like, why the fuck would you just have that stuff out to like be able to be like grabbed at to begin with? It's just fucking nonsense, is what it is. But yeah, this guy, like I said, when he decided to take a personal call from his wife, is what it is, that day when he was trying to make that sale with me, and it did rub me the wrong way for quite a while, is what it is there. And then, of course, when I went back, it was like I think it was maybe like 10 days later or something when it finally came in or whatever. And I noticed that obviously he was finger fucking my gun when I went in the shop that day. And I think he was just playing around with it, trying to see if he actually wanted to put them in this case, what it is in the future or something. But yeah, he was much nicer the second time around, knows what it was. And I think he did apologize to me for the previous rude behavior and stuff like that, at least to some extent anyway. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what it is, bro. And my thing is, it's like, I would probably support that place again if I actually knew that they had like good inventory at like decent prices and it wasn't going to be charging me an arm and a fucking leg, is what it is there. But yeah, with places like Fin Feather for Outfitters here in Ohio, and just other, larger retailers that have like more inventory, can do sales and stuff like that, it's much easier to just go up there and get stuff from them, is what it is then, than it is to go to some like local dude that, may or may not have that in stock, is what it is then. So again, it is what it is. But yeah, it was that same day that I ended up going up there or going over there to get that thing as it is from that place is when my mom was like, "Oh, I need to go up to this place in Belton Village." And I forget if it was Aldi's or where exactly she was going to. And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go check out this sporting goods store next door." And I think that was the first time I'd ever walked into Finn. Or no, sorry, that was the second time I walked into Finn because the first time I walked in there, I thought it was just sporting goods. I thought it was literally just like a fishing place or whatever the case be. I thought it was just a lot of like, fishing rods, tackle, etc. there because that was the only spot I'd gone to that time or whatever the first time around. I didn't even realize that directly back, all the way back into the shop, there was a whole fucking gun counter there. And it wasn't until that day I was like, wait, there's a gun counter here? Like, oh, okay. And then really at that time what it was, because this was the time not long. Or wait. Yeah, because it would have been the midterms. This is before my federal swatting happened. So this would have been, I'm trying to think now. I know there was something that happened there. Yeah, I'm trying to remember now, like what the deal was. I think there was like something weird going on at the time, or whatever, and that people talking about like no fly, no buy list, or whatever the case be, or like some kind of secret like no sale list or whatever it was. And I forget exactly what the deal was. I don't think I had said anything at that point, but I forget exactly what had happened. I thought maybe I was like, oh, that's what it was. It was my identity had been stolen like a decade before that. And I thought maybe I was going to be a primitive person because of that, because the fucker that stole my identity would have fucked me over or whatever like that is what it is. And so when I was at Finn that day, I was like, oh, let me, see if I can find something that's within the price range of the cash I still have in my pocket right now is what it is. And so I was looking around their gun cases and stuff like that, and they had a pretty good sale then at the time. And this was obviously 2 years in the Trump administration at that time period of history. Well, it was about a year and a half actually in Trump's administration the first time around. And thank God for that, dude, because I will tell you what, the difference in the pricing of stuff between Obama and Trump was night and fucking day, man. Like it was some crazy, crazy shit, man. Like under Obama, these same firearms were like $300-$400 or more. And that day I was looking around and this Ruger LCP was under 200 at the time. And I was like, that's a good fucking deal, bro. I was like, and I told the guy, I was like, yeah, I'm going to check that out or whatever the case be. Thinking like, okay, I'm going to, even as a big deal, just, concealed carry this thing in the future, what it is. And I get my carry permit. Obviously, it's before constitutional carry now became a thing a couple years after that then. Well, not a couple years, I guess it was 4 years after that then. But yeah, so let me check that out or whatever the case be. And then I end up buying that or trying to buy that Ruger LCP just to see if I actually could pass a background check. That's what it was. And sure enough, I was able to, and they got it to me, and I was like, and mind you, if you look back at my old videos from that time period when I first bought that gun, there was about 5 minutes where I was an anti-gunner for a little bit there because it was, and I think it had to do with the fact that I was like, man, that background check came through fast. And that's why I was kind of like, should we not, have like a waiting period of some kind? And then of course that, I think it was in that time period of me doing that stream, I was like, you know what, that would actually be kind of fucking stupid though, because, this, and this is the reason why, obviously. And yeah, when you look into it, the reason that waiting periods are unconstitutional and should be banned across the board, what it is there is because you are restricting people's rights. You are absolutely being tyrannical and infringing on their Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And not only that, but also the governments that should not be in power in this country that are doing these kind of things are actively preventing people from defending themselves against potential threats to their life is what it is. And we've seen this play out over the years, actually. There was a great example of this. It was in New Jersey back in that time period of history. Before that, maybe like 2014, 15, something like that's what it is. There was a black woman there in New Jersey that was being stalked by her ex. I don't know if he was boyfriend or husband at the time. And because of the state of New Jersey being one of these, 7 circles of hell, basically, when it comes to anti-gun bullshit, she was put on a background check list and she did her background check, there's what it was, and she was put on one of these lists to basically be a waiting period list is what it is, where it was like, oh, you got to wait, I think it was like 3 to 5 days or something like that at the time. And in that time period, her ex literally stalked her. I don't know if he had gotten a gun off the streets or if it was a knife he just pulled on her, whatever it was. But he killed her, obviously. And had she had a gun on her, if it wasn't for stupid ass waiting periods there in that state, she could have been a person who stood her ground and was not a victim that day, is what it is. But because you got to stay in New Jersey, be the stupid motherfucking pieces of shit they are and oath breaking tyrants that they are, they basically took this woman's life because of that crap. And that's pretty much why I've since then obviously been, anti waiting periods and stuff like that, to the point, obviously, after my federal swatting in 2019, to where I was completely anti 4473 is what it is, which I still am, by the way, even as somebody who, just did one today is what it is. And it basically goes back down to the fact that you literally have our government, whether it be the ATF, FBI, DOJ, et cetera, across all the operating agencies. They literally know what the fuck you have, dude. If you've ever bought a gun from 4473, they know exactly what you own. And I know this for a fact because flash forward from 2018 to 2019, you had in that time period between literally midterms of 2018, so November 2018 to it was, I'm trying to think what day it was now. It would have been, let's see, because I'm trying to remember now about constitutional carry kicking off and picking up fire and stuff like that. Or no, was it constitutional carry? That's what it was. It was 2A sanctuary. That was what I'm thinking of. Yeah, you had 2A sanctuary be a thing in Virginia. Then underneath, I think it was Ralph Northam as governor. And board that stuff. That's basically, it was that time period then that was actually getting on board with other people online and basically forming up a grassroots organization then that eventually became Stark Stands United, which at the time was part of another group called Ohio Stands United, which was supposed to be the parent group there and was trying to, as they claimed, get all 88 counties commissioners to be on board and actually sign off on becoming a 2A sanctuary to protect people's 2A rights, etc. There's what it is at a state level. Of course, after the fact, what we realized is the scumbags behind the Ohio Stands United group were just that. They were a bunch of Antifa. They were a bunch of fucking BLM pieces of shit, basically. They falsely claimed one thing in order to get the group to be X amount of people in it, which I think it was either over 10,000 or over 20,000 people at one point. And it was sometime in that time period then where you had the fucking scumbag pieces of shit behind it who literally started getting into it with actual conservatives in this country. And then eventually you had the guy who had created the group itself, who was from, I believe, Cincinnati, Ohio area, who literally just came out and was like, oh, this group is now pro, I think it was Joe Jorgensen or whatever, who was running for U.S. presidency as libertarian back then or something. And I was like, well, that's some bullshit. Go fuck yourself, dude. Like, I'm out. And like, I honestly think there was about probably 2,000 or 3,000 people that did a mass exit from that group when that happened. But it was then, rightfully so, because again, you're deceiving people. You're claiming you're for 2A rights only to get a big enough platform / following of you. And then you're going to turn the group into something totally different that nobody signed up for, is what it is then. So anyway, but yeah, it was around that time too that you also had Ohio Stands United start doing our get-togethers. And of course, you had me talk to some people like Joe Burrell, who has unfortunately since gone on to be like this weird guru, I guess is what it is. Weird like meditation, like namaste type of dude is what it is there. And at the time, he was obviously a super patriot, and we had talked at that point in history because this was obviously, it was August. We go back to August of 2019 when I had my federal swatting by the pieces of shit in the FBI here, is what it is locally. And they knew it was all bullshit, dude. And I was telling my cousin the story actually today when we were driving. And I told them that straight up. I was like, yeah, they knew it was all bullshit. They were literally just kind of trying to come after me, target me, because they know that I am a true patriot of this country. I'm not a fucking sellout. I'm not a tyrant. I'm not a piece of shit, basically. I love my nation. And I think what it really was, and like I told that to my cousin as well, I said, I truly do believe, and I'll maintain that to this day, honestly, that I think that whole swatting was the feds trying to gauge me as number one, a threat level, but also number two, if they could actually get me on anything and then force me to become some bullshit operative for them, as what it would be. So anyway, but yeah, it is what it is. Anywho, but yeah, I remember that the dude who was the partner guy, this dude was like the biggest fucking Temu.com, Wish.com, discount ass motherfucking Hank Schrader wannabe I've ever seen in my entire life. And I swear to God, this dude was trying to bow up and fight me. But I realized after the fact, I think what was actually happening was he was told while they were in the car, it's like, oh, do you want to play good cop or bad cop today? And he's like, no, I want to play bad cop. And so, of course, you had Timmy on the one side there who was playing good cop and being like, oh, do you have this, or this, or whatever the case be? And then you had his asshole fucking piece of shit buddy who was told to basically play bad cop and do whatever they had to do, fuck with me and try to get me to take a swing, basically. Because they're honestly, the shit that dude was spewing out of his mouth as a Fed, like, he probably should have gotten the shit slapped out of him, honestly, the way he was treating me. But again, I'm not going to fall for that crap. And I think they realized that because me being a high functioning autistic and, knowing exactly pretty much where the line is at, what it is there, and to not cross it. Anyway, but yeah, and of course you had, like I said, the Dayton massacre happened there is what it is. Then it was my federal swatting happened right after that's what it is then. And then you had a bunch of other stuff happen down the line. And I'm totally losing my train of thought because I am seriously like this close to falling asleep right now because I'm just so exhausted currently is what it is. Just the day I've had and then not really getting any sleep last night too much because since Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, I've been dealing with an earwig infestation in my bedroom of this place, as well as now, as of yesterday, a pissing infestation as well, for that matter. Thankfully, my cousin was able to come out today. We were doing a few things after we got back from our running errands, there's what it is. And I was able to he was able to bring some caulk with him is what it is, and he was able to take the caulking tubes and then just basically lay them out onto the baseboard there in the bedroom, which is where I realized that at least minimum ants were coming in. I think what was happening was you had the earwigs also flattening their bodies and just kind of squeezing through that is what it is to get to a new home, essentially, because of the heat, the humidity, and of course the rainstorms here in Ohio in the past few days is what it is then. And so, yeah, between the time period of that, of Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and then all the stuff that's happened since then, I have killed over 16, or wait, was the last count 17? I think, yeah, it was 17 now. I've killed 17 earwigs. since that day, including I think it's about 11 today, something like that, maybe 10 today, somewhere in there. It was a lot there, dude. And anybody that doesn't call it infestation is lying to you, is what it is, because that's 100% like a little mini infestation. Again, I have no idea where exactly it all came from. It seemed like they were kind of onesie, twosies, maybe threesies in the place where it's like, okay, when the one dies or whatever the case be, let's, flip this one up there now is what it is or something. And you basically end up having a situation where, because of that, I just put lesser train on that one. I honestly don't even know what I was talking about there. My mind just completely blanked out and I kind of passed out momentarily. So, anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. That's just, whew, man. I need to get a little drink of water here and see if I can keep awake a little bit longer than this done. But anyway, um, so yeah, you had the swatting happen. And then I thought from there I wasn't going to be able to, buy again. But of course, I've been able to buy since that's what it is. But one thing that's what it was. One thing I want to point out about the first swatting, there's what it is how the 4473 system is 100% a gun registry / gun roster currently, is what it is here in 2026, as it was back in 2019, is what it was when I was fairly swatted. Because one of the first things that this Tim guy did was ask me, do I own any firearms? And I literally responded to him at that point. And I was like, bro, everybody on this fucking street owns firearms. Like, what are you even talking about? And he's like, no, but you specifically. And then of course I think at one point I basically was telling him I'm pleading the fifth or whatever it is there. Or something, or it's like, yeah, I refuse to answer your fucking loaded question or something like what it is or whatever. But yeah, he was not happy about me basically invoking my freedom to speech, is what it is there, or anything else for that matter, which is ironic given that he was literally out there trying to railroad an innocent man when you literally at that time in history in 2019 had Islamic terrorist sleeper cells down in Columbus, Ohio. There's a mosque down there about, I don't know, like 4 to 6 blocks from Ohio State's campus, somewhere in there. And at that time period of history, you literally had these people doing terrorism, committing terrorism, and I want to say at least one of them tried to kill a cop, is what it is. But the entire point of the matter is that you had these piece of shit feds, instead of going down there and dealing with the actual threats to human life, they wanted to pick that low hanging fruit, and that low hanging piece of fruit just happened to be me, is what it is. So it just kind of sucks, bro. But anyways, the entire point is that you had a bunch of oath breaking bullshit, and you basically had this cop admit to me at that time of exactly how they're using the 4473s to track people in their gun purchases, what it is. Which is like I said, why I become anti 4473 for some years now, is what it is. And then you have everything else going on. Where it is. Sorry, my wings like micro napping at this point. But anyway, so yeah, going forward from there, you basically have these douchebags, pack up their shit and leave, and admit they were basically illegally spying on me for 60 of my life. Of course, they're complete and total scumbags. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically what I've been sort of anti this, that, and the other thing for years of my life is what it is now. But yeah, then if we go forward to how the network became the network, this was in 2021. I had created a group called Ohioans for Firearms Freedom, aka OFFF, and it was that sister organization that I and other people that became the eventual leadership of Ohio Patriot Education Network were, for a year of our lives, going around doing what we needed to do, finding the right people, getting the right people in places of power, et cetera, to where you would actually have the people being in charge of stuff, not the fucking feds that it is there. And so, yeah, sure enough, I was doing daily calls, daily texts, daily whatever we're going to call it there, to every single person on the General Assembly that was part of any kind of group vote is what it is, and making sure that they were still a yes vote or trying to change their minds and create a yes voter who it is then. So, anyways, but yeah, it was basically a whole situation where the feds are admitting to people that they are, swatting, that they are in fact the biggest problem with America currently is what it is in 2026. So, but yeah, it became a whole thing is what it is there, and it was very unpleasant to say the least. But yeah, I thought honestly that maybe that the federal SWAT was going to make me a prohibited person what it is. So it was about 4 to 6 months later, I finally had enough, and I was like, all right, let's go see if I actually can get me a gold chain or something. Oh wait, did I just say that right? I don't remember now. Oh yeah, no, we were talking about the calling people. So yeah, I basically spent over a year of my life asking other people in the founding membership who, if it wasn't for us doing the hard work, the manual labor, the hard lifting, etc., there, you have a bunch of turd worlders that will come into our nation and fuck everything up. They will defraud our country. They will completely fuck over our resources, et cetera, et cetera. And meanwhile, during that time period, you have tyrannical governments who are openly siding with these invaders instead of just simply kicking them the fuck off of life and dealing with the problem and threat as it stands. But so, anyways, but yeah, basically what I've realized since then is that my guess, or at least guesstimation anyway, is that these fuckstick ass feds were quite literally trying to make it so sorry, need to take a second here. Trying to slap myself awake a little bit here. Anyway, so yeah, so basically 2019, all of 2021 was basically working 365 days there throughout that year to help the constitutional carry over the line. Called lawmakers, spent days to weeks of my life doing that stuff. Put everybody's feet to the fire on that one. Finally happened in 2022. Made us super psyched. That is why I made sure that the date for the beginning of Ohio Patriot Education Network was 6/13/22, because we always wanted to be on the day of one of the biggest and best changes to Ohio laws in Ohio history. That change obviously being constitutional carry. And so yeah, from then And since then, we've had a few other things happen here in Ohio. More recently, you started having these gangbanger shootings again in places like Toledo, et cetera, there, where you got people jacking 40 to 80. Wait, what's going on now? Some up people. I can't remember offhand now. Again, I'm so fucking out of it right now. Just exhausted from the last day or so now is what it is. But anyways, so essentially what ended up happening was then, spent a year of my life doing stuff, never got praised for it, unfortunately. It is what it is. And have obviously been a 2A rights advocate since then is what it is across the board. Really since 2019 is what it is there with the federal swatting. I was figuring out now with these uppers that are coming in, if I'm able to get the lowers for them pretty soon, how many guns I will actually have owned now is what it is. And it's quite a few, man. I think last count it was like around 16 or so. So, anyways, yeah, we back in 2023 or not 2024, I had expanded us into another state, obviously being TPEN or the Texas Patriot Education Network. Unfortunately, nobody there has really stepped up in that time period, the last couple of years now, and done much of anything to, further 2A rights in the state of Texas, which I think a lot of people really don't even care, or it's a situation where if they do actually care, they are being eroded by the system is what it is there. But yeah, I can easily see things having a negative effect in the coming days, weeks, months, etc. There is what it is. And unfortunately, most recently here in Ohio, this past week, you had the Freedom to Carry Act be killed on the House floor by a piece of shit rhino chamber jumpers like Matt Huffman, who shouldn't even be in our General Assembly anymore. She's been kicked out at least a single General Assembly ago for literally having term limits at the time. And since then, you've had, I think it's like before Huffman and obviously after Huffman now, it's like 32 to 35 people in the Ohio General Assembly that shouldn't even be there right now because they've actively broken term limits, chamber jumped to the opposite side of the chamber to remain in power. And it's like, that is such fucking bullshit, bro. Yeah. Sorry, I'm literally like micro-napping again. But yeah, anyway. So basically, myself and others, we've been doing the hard work behind the scenes of what it is. And unfortunately, when you have, 70 something people fucking you over, fucking your rights over, etc. there, and you only have 20 people who are actually standing up for your rights is what it is there. There's definitely some bad stuff going on there. And I would go as far as to say, anyways, but yeah, myself and many, many other people were big parts of constitutional carry becoming a law on the land here in Ohio in 2022. And it'd be nice to at least get a little bit of recognition for it, because it wasn't just Ohio governors that pulled it off. It wasn't just, mom and pops or the case be. It was literal mom and pop shops doing what they needed to do to get things done. And it's ironic that, a few years later now, you see that piece of shit, Jessica Reapin, who is actively going out trying to fuck up Karmelo by stabbing him. Or sorry, not Karmelo. She's trying to fuck with like everybody else in the Carmelo's family is what it is there. by putting out bullshit videos of herself where she is being the stupidest person alive and being allowed to get away with what it is. So, anywho, but yeah. So going back to Freedom to Carry Act, it was given a 4 vote this week. Unfortunately, pieces of shit. Uh, So I just realized we've been rolling this entire time, apparently, while I was napping for like the last hour. So, yeah, needless to say, it's been an exhausting day. I'm exhausted. I think everybody else is exhausted too. And I will be back tomorrow for the latest episode of Slicey Boy Saturday. Doing some stuff. We got a couple different blades in place here. I'm going to do a comparison of 14C 28N knives of cheap end versus, a little bit more on the high end scale what it is there for under the $20 to $25 price point what it is then. So, but other than that, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been an interesting 4 years for sure, and it's been kind of disgusting to see the lack of true, real communication in the state and true, real oath keeping within the General Assembly. How many oath breakers exist there, and how many of these morons should just not be in power whatsoever when it is them. So, and why it's time to seriously consider as a whole a group just abolishing the Ohio state government and dealing with the problem as it stands right now. And then we simply, as a organization, as a bunch of entities, simply reform the exact same state government with a bunch of new oath keepers is what it is then, and get rid of all these damn oath breakers is what it is there. So, but till later, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. Always be curing. Always be situationally aware, etc., 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 etc. And I will have hopefully a better time with everybody. But yeah, till later. I am out the door, down the hall, and pretty much head hitting the pillow is what it is right now. So it'll be an interesting situation. And like I said, as of tomorrow, we'll be back for the next Slicey Boy Saturday episode. So hopefully you guys are all about that. Hopefully you'll enjoy that. And you get it all, back to square one is what it is there. But yeah, as of right now, I'm just so friggin' exhausted that it's time to just go do what needs to be done. And help out those who helped, and literally just do everything that we've been shown to be, and trying to help everybody else what it is there, because now really is the time for Ohioans to be able to be getting better legislation past the finish line. Bunch of damn oath breakers not fucking us over, and us actually as a TA rights organization continuing to help the poorest among us. And eventually it'll be a situation where hopefully we can actually do the correct thing and have a better governor's race and a better bunch of candidates and stuff like that, because both Vivek and Acton are complete and total criminals. Neither one should even be in this race. They're both little scumbags. Most recently, you've had Vivek now, who is just openly doing all kinds of criminal shit. The latest one is actually how his company back in 2020, before the lockdowns, was actively pushing a bunch of lobbyists within the government to basically push forward the COVID shots and mandatory lockdowns and all kinds of other unconstitutional bullshit. And yeah, Vivek should definitely be sitting in prison right now, awaiting trial If war crimes against humanity is what it is, and never see the light of day again in his life. Same thing with Mike DeWine. Same thing with Amy Acton. All three of these people are just the biggest fucking scumbags on earth in this nation. So, anyways, till later. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Stay safe, stay vigilant. Always be caring. Always be situationally aware. And have a good one, y'all. Bye.